I'm definitely doing this video because I feel like it will get more views or something. Not that I really want views, but you know, a lot of people are very interested in just Donald Glover in general, and you know, why not? Let me talk a bit about this. You know, things I want to do albums, but you know, I can talk about songs as well. I'm going to talk about "This Is America" by Childish Gambino. My introduction to Childish Gambino really is from like Donald Glover and Community. That is where I first knew him. I was in, you know, freshman year of high school. I think when I first found out about Community. It was kind of one of the shows that me and my friends would always talk about because it was just this very quirky, nerdy show that it was actually, you know, in retrospect, it had such a fantastic cast. Like a lot of cast members there kind of moved on to different projects after it got canceled. And moved to Yahoo and all of this stuff, but it was a fantastic show. It was very creative, and Donald Glover was really just kind of a bit player in it. You know, he was Troy in the show, and he was this kind of very aloof, you know, not to be kind of offensive, but he was a pretty stupid character, and he wasn't the smartest. You know, he wasn't that was just his character in the show. Being, you know, unintentionally funny and all of this. And one day I was online and I forgot if someone sent it to me or if I just saw it out of nowhere or if I was on a Wikipedia page and I found out. But at some point I found out that I saw the video for Freaks and Geeks under the pseudonym of Childish Gambino. I had no idea that Donald Glover was making music, and you know, sometimes in the show he would do these very funny raps, but you know, they were never really serious. So I watched this video for Freaks and Geeks, and I was just astonished and amazed. Not in the best of ways at the time. I remember just being kind of shocked, like, what? This very innocent-looking, kind, nerdy, guy from Community has this very, like, gangster song where he's, like, cursing and acting tough and talking about, you know, bitches and hoes or whatever it was. It kind of surprised me, and I showed it to some of my friends who watch Community, and they kind of just like looked at it and were confused and just pretended like they never saw it. You know, Childish Gambino, I remember soon after that, I think he released this album called Camp, which I listened to, and it was just very poppy, it sounded like very, you know, heavily inspired by something like 808s or something, and it was okay. Like there were some songs I remember being kind of memorable or catchy, but it wasn't an album that I listened to a lot, especially because, you know, this was back in 2011, 2012. I was really getting very deep into at the time. What was kind of blowing my mind was The Weeknd. The Weeknd right now seems like such a mainstream kind of thing to listen to, but back then The Weeknd and Frank Ocean were two of the most elusive musicians. When The Weeknd was releasing, I was listening to the trilogy as it came out. I remember being so amazed by amazed and like seduced by the sounds of you know, House of Balloons and Thursday and eventually The Echoes of Silence. You know, those three albums really just, it was the kind of music I was, you know, I mean, I was like a teenager, but it was this kind of music I would just play all day and put me in a very kind of somber mood, but it was something I was very responsive to at the time, as well as Frank Ocean with what was it, Nostalgia Ultra. So those were the two artists that were really kind of taking over my listening habits. So when I listened to Camp, it didn't really blow me away. I think it was okay, but it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite thing to listen to at the time. So a couple, you know, at the time Community was still on. I watched a lot of Community, and eventually, because the internet came out, as well as I don't know how to pronounce this album, the one with the Kawaii, STNMTN and Kawaii, as well as because the internet came out. I heard something like because the internet came out with like a screenplay or something. I did not listen to it. But I remember a lot of the criticism around him at the time was that people were not taking him seriously as a rapper. They thought he was, I guess because of his background, he's not someone who came from, it's kind of condescending to say, I guess, but this is how the conversation was going around him from the media at the time, especially if you look back on his reviews of Because of the Internet and Camp, people were not taking him seriously because he seemed like he did not take rap seriously. He was like just playing around with rap. He did not really have much to rap about. He came from a middle class family. He went to NYU. He was very well off. He was writing for TV shows. It seemed like rap was just like a side thing for him. People didn't really take it seriously, because it seemed like he had not really been engaging with the history and the culture and just the meat of hip hop. It seemed very artificial, from what I was reading, and that didn't really appeal to me, especially when 2011, so let me see. Let me be more accurate in all this. So 2013 is when Because the Internet came out. Is that when Yeezus came out? I don't remember, but it's just there was just so much more interesting things I think to listen to at the time, and that was Yeezus. I was here for Yeezus. I was listening to Yeezus. I remember I was being blown away by Yeezus, and a bunch of other things that came out in 2013. I was listening to whatever else is out, but I Because the Internet was not really on my radar until recently. I don't know what happened. So there was some kind of media thing going on, because someone was able to kind of reinvent Donald Glover as like a artistic powerhouse for some reason. Because if you were aware of how he was being perceived by the industry back in 2013, 2012, 2011, he was a joke. He was, like, let me see, Camp got a 1.6 on Pitchfork. Like, he was not being respected. And I think for maybe a good reason, really. He wasn't really the best technically, and he wasn't really the most adventurous production-wise. And recently, what happened, so for some reason, he kind of turned it all around when he came out with, I think it must have started with Atlanta, because Atlanta came out in 15 or 16, and I have to admit, I was pretty blown away by the show, because it had a very unique brand of humor that undercut a lot of obvious social commentary that other more kind of obvious, more in your face shows might have had. And Atlanta was very smart about it, and it was very experimental, and you could really tell that Donald Glover, having been given like the reins of creativity with his collaborator Hiro Murai, he could do whatever he wanted. So Atlanta was a big success. I loved Atlanta. When Awaken My Love came out, he was fully reinvented. The way he would kind of just his stage persona became this kind of I don't want to use this word, but he's very like messiah-like figure. He'd always perform like his shirt off or something, and he'd act all sexy. And he had he had Red Bone, which is an amazing song. And the album was not anymore a rap album. It was a funk album. Directly feeding the sounds of Parliament and Funkadelic, the greats, and by moving away from rap and going to this more funk, R&B, soul direction, he was able to kind of carve out a more accepting persona and niche, and the album fared pretty well. I thought it was quite good. And I've gone 9 minutes without talking about the song. For what it's worth, I watched the video like 10 times, I swear. Like, the first time I saw it, I watched like 3 or 4 times straight. I thought I was quite amazed by it, but I feel like I'm not very sure what he's saying. And you could see the same way with Atlanta as a show. I think when the video came out, people were very easily jumped on the bandwagon of thinking it was this kind of, song about gun violence, about guns, and how it's very very leftist slant and all this stuff. But the song itself, lyrically, doesn't really have that much to say. It doesn't really say much in the song. He kind of just paints a picture of arguably black on black violence. Really, there are no white people, I think, in the video. But he plays, this idea of, I guess, to some extent, he was kind of juxtaposing this fun-loving nature with the violence of it all, and how we're trying to figure out how we kind of look at it in a perspective that is very skewed, and one-sided, perhaps, or not really one-sided, but we are. It's kind of this weird dichotomy in which we somehow are able to enjoy both the news and the little meme dancing. I mean, the thing is, you kind of see the video separately from the song itself, because I feel like when you hear the song, you have a different picture from when you see the video. The video really, having seen the video first, it really changed my perception of just everything about the song. But the song on its own it's a trap song, not much lyrics. You have some Young Thug, backing and a bunch of Atlanta rap. I think it's very interesting. It's kind of experimentally structured, and it is quite pleasant to listen to, I think. But the video, it's really what sells it, because of the embedded ambiguity that I think it's not really not being given that much attention to. Because I feel like what he is, I don't think he's trying to say anything, but I think that the picture he's painting is more nuanced and more critical of his own culture as well as our culture as a whole than people are giving it credit for. People are just kind of automatically assigning it to these binary political spectrums, but I think it's definitely it's painting a picture that is more complex and more just touches more bases than people like to think about. I mean, people are looking at him as the anti-Kanye, which is, the song isn't really saying that much. I mean, come on, this this is America. I'm going over time right now, but what is the lyrics? Come on, let me look. He's not really saying that much. What makes it special is the video. Anyway, that's what I think about the song. I think it's a great song. I like listening to it. I've listened to it a couple of times. I've seen the video 100 times. And he definitely is, some parts of the song, he's the juxtaposition of hunted bands and contraband. But the thing is, if you just think about it, his persona in the song is a black man bragging about his access to violence and his access to drugs and his access to all this horrible stuff. And then we're all yeah, what a great song! Wow, what a banger! It's not. The song is much more complicated than that, it seems. And I don't know if maybe in a similar way to Drank by Kendrick Lamar, where you kind of, except that song says so much more lyrically, but it's this kind of anti-banger where you listen to it, but then you kind of think it's a great song, but the lyrics are actually very against drinking, which is kind of in the wrong. When you hear it, it's usually in the context that is very hypocritical of what the song actually means. But anyway, I'm going so much over time, but that's what I think about this song and Childish Gambino. Big fan of Atlanta, the show. Excited to see him in solo. Happy for him in his career and all this. Yeah.